Alright my friends, so in the last video we were able to make our first request to the Unsplash API, and here in the console we get this object as our data back from the API, or let's say our response. Here if you take a look, here we have the data object right here, or the data array, let's say. Alright, so this is what we want to extract from this object, right? So let's go ahead and take a closer look, because I don't care about all these informations except for the data right here, because it has all this information that we want. So here inside my component mount, here I am creating the variable and I'm gonna fetch all this information. I'm just gonna destructure the data, all right? So we are gonna only get the data back, and here I'm just gonna rename it, okay, to photos. So we wanna add colon, then photos. I'm just gonna rename it to photos, all right? So here what we have did, we have here, we need to just console.log photos, because it is no longer named data. Here we are destructuring the data array and rename it to photos. All right, so that's why I have to say here console.log photos. If we switch back to the web browser, we can see only the array being printed to the console successfully. And if I expand it, you can see it has a lot of information that we can make use of, right? So here we are going to go back right here, and here what I'd like today, instead of saying console.log, I'm just gonna say this .set state, and here I'm just gonna say photos. All right, I'm gonna update my photos, which is the empty array inside our state, to be this photos, which is hold the information that we'll get back from the Unsplash API. Now, if you are wondering why I have updated this thing right here, because I want to use the photos inside my render method. Okay, and when we fetch it, it's only available inside the component mount. So that's how I have to set it in the state, so I can access it here inside my render method from our state. Pretty straightforward. Now what we want to do here, instead of saying photo list, first of all here inside my render method, I'm gonna check if, let's say, this .state.photos .length, if the length of it is equal to 0, that means it's an empty array, then I'm just gonna return a div that has a class of loading. We will fix that, or we will add the style later on. For the time being, I'm just gonna make it say loading. So if the array is empty, that means we didn't fetch the photos yet, then I'm gonna return loading to the user. Otherwise, if this is not true, then this one here will be immediately executed. So instead of returning only photo list, I am just gonna go ahead and map it through our array. So let's see what we can do. I'm just gonna say this .state photos .map. We can map through them, and for each photo I am just gonna return, let's call it, for example, return anything. Now we will fix that later on. Here I'm just gonna return a div. Okay, let's return at least one div, and in this div I'm just gonna say the index. Okay, we will print here I can let's print the ID maybe. Okay, because if you take a look here, let me just add a console.log. So console.log photos like this. Let's see what's the information that we can pass right here. And here photo.id, we can set photo.id just to ensure that we are getting some information. So I'm just gonna show to the user print or photo.id, and I'm just gonna save and switch back. We can see, let me minimize this one right here. We got 1, 2, 3, all this information back, and we are ensuring that we have this information. Now the interesting thing right here, if I refresh, you will see a loading. Then once I fetch, then my loading will disappear and I have the information right here, and now I can go ahead and deal with it and display anything that I want. However, we have a warning right here that because here when we are mapping, all right, here when we are mapping through our photos array, we need to give our first element in the mapping cycle, we want to give it a key attribute. And since here this line was just for the testing purposes, because we are assuming that for each photo we are going to return a photo item component. So let's go ahead and implement that. I'm just gonna return photo item. So photo item, I think it's an empty file, so that's why we need to create it. So we have photo item. I need to import it, of course, here on the top before even I use it. So I'm just gonna say import photo item from, and I have to give it the path. All right, this is something that we have did a lot, so I expect of you to know most of this. All right, and here we are returning a photo item for each component, or for each photo that we are gonna receive from our API. And here I have to give it the key, and I'm just gonna set it to be photo.id. That will first of all remove the warning. Second of all, we are gonna return a photo item component for each photo that we have it. Now pretty straightforward. The only thing is missing, it is to go ahead and pass these informations that we receive here, these informations for each photo, for example the ID, the time, the color, the height, and so on. We can go ahead and pass these informations from the photo list to the photo item, and we can display it right here as we wish. And that's what we are going to do in the next video. Thank you my friends so much for watching. See you in the next one.